Hi everyone, welcome to Listen In. This is episode 4. This is our last episode, and this is Kelsey and Andrea.
Hey guys.
So this time we're going to be talking about different types of stories for podcasts that you can listen to. So there's different genres that we're going to get into a little bit. The first one is comedy fiction. So these are just a few of the ones that we listed. Um, Sadist, Ellen Berg's Casual Friday, probably butchered that name. Um, this sounds
Thaddeus, I'm pretty sure.
Thaddeus. Okay, Thaddeus.
I'm, I'm a big fan of like fantasy. Not that that's fantasy name, but I feel like that's like I don't know.
Yeah, no,
Continue.
that makes sense.
It's a little fantasy or science fiction.
Yeah,
It's a little like,
it
although
works.
no, I don't have I think my mom's friend had a son named Thad, like Thaddeus. I'm
No,
pretty
okay.
sure. Well, it's a real name,
Yeah,
but
definitely is. I just don't know how to say. But I don't know how to talk today. So, so there's another one called This Sounds Serious, The Thrilling Adventure Hour, The Beef and Dairy Network, Advanced Sagebrush and Shootouts, and The Amelia Project. And I,
so the
yeah,
oh
go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say, so the Beef and Dairy Network, it sounds like, like why would that be a comedy podcast? But it's actually like fictional reports from the beef and dairy industry done by a British comedian, and it's very funny. It's like kind of that dry humor, dry observational, fake observational humor, but really good. And then also the Amelia Project is about a woman who will fake kill you and then reassign you a different like name and past and everything, kind of like witness protection, um but on like a more business like personal level, so also kind of like it's a scripted fiction, so really good, really funny.
So, like, if you want like an alter ego or something.
I think that like, well, what it does, it's like more like politicians and like scientists and things, like people who have definitely done like something wrong. Not just, I was saying before that, imagine if you like were like, I made like a social error, like
Like,
could you
please
could you
reinvent me.
kill me and save me from my embarrassment, please? Like, I think it's a little bit more serious than that, but still on a comedic kind of level.
It sounds funny. Like it would keep you entertained. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we have mystery, thriller, and suspense. So there is Blackout, Blood Ties, Homecoming, Passenger List, The Walk, and Lesser Gods. Blackout has Rami Malek in it. So if you guys like movies and stuff that he's in, you might want to check this one out.
And then there's also Homecoming, which is now has been made into an Amazon original. So who's in the first one? Oh, Pretty Woman,
Whoa,
coming out here.
Robert?
Julia Roberts,
Oh.
yes, is in the first season. And Janelle Monáe is in the second season, which is either just coming out or just has come out. I'm not sure if it's available yet. And then Lesser Gods is a podcast about like a dystopian society where there's a final generation of people, like human beings have lost the ability to reproduce. So and this kind of reminded me of that movie, I believe it's called Children of God, and who's in it? I'm just gonna be like describing actors and you have to guess who I'm talking about.
It happens.
um uh but in that one, the same thing basically happens. Humans aren't able to reproduce. In the movie, not the podcast, in the movie, a woman actually is pregnant, and the main character is trying to ferry her to safety because people are, want to study her baby and everything that they shouldn't be doing with a new precious life.
Yeah.
And
What?
in the in in the podcast Lesser Gods, though, the last 6 people on Earth have just turned 22. The last generation of Earth has just turned 22, and they basically live like this really like high opulent life because, they're they're considered lesser gods. They're like the last people that should be survive on this earth. But right as they're introduced to the sixth person that is part of their group, that person's immediately killed, and it's kind of a murder mystery about who killed her and whether or not they're hunting all of them.
Ooh.
So yeah, a little thriller, a little mystery, a little dystopia,
Love
all
it.
those good things.
Sprinkle it all on top. You know, when I look at the Blood Ties one, it kind of looks like it would be like a Netflix split TV show or something. That's what
Which one?
Blood Ties. When you just look at, like, I guess I don't know.
Oh yeah.
The cover of a book, but the photo. That's what
yeah, I see that.
Maybe one day. Right?
I mean, a lot of these shows. You can go ahead.
No,
a lot of these podcasts are becoming, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon originals. Actually, on the next slide, there is Lore, which is also an Amazon original.
That's cool. You like that one, right?
Yeah, that one is like it's basically like kind of dark fairy tales and folk tales. Like think, grim fairy tales, but
Okay.
So, like I think there are some that are like, kind of I've only listened to a few. There are some that are like more mainstream, like werewolves, and then there are some that are like specific to certain regions. Like there's like this whole thing in like Appalachians. Am I saying that right? Appalachian Mountains, the Appalachian Mountains. There's like a whole bunch of like lore and cryptid lore around there too. So there's like an episode I think that's like goes into like more specific kind of folklore rather than just like broad werewolves everywhere kind of thing.
Oh, cool. That kind of like reminds me of watching Supernatural and how like different like creatures they would have to. Like...
I love Supernatural.
Yeah.
I'm so sad that Kelsey, of course, knows this, so I don't know why I said it like it was a revelation.
Yeah.
I'm so sad that it had to quit filming because of our little pandemic.
I know.
Not that it's little. I'm sorry. That sounded dismissive. It's not little. But I was very sad about that because it's the last season, everyone. It's the very last.
But now we have a longer time with them.
Kind of, but not really, because they've just been stalling.
That's what I'm talking about.
But I mean, yeah, I understand why. It was definitely for the health and safety of the crew, and we love them and all the work that they've been doing, so we want them to be safe. But I'm sad that I have to wait to see it. I do want to know what happens. It's like when you're at the last like 5 pages of a book and you lost the book.
Oh God.
Could you imagine? I would drive myself crazy. It would never happen, honestly. I would literally. I would
to like Walmart and buy the book. Like.
Yeah, I would just go on. If I lost the physical book, I would just go online and buy the ebook, or I would tear. Well, first of all, I don't give up that easily, so I would probably tear my entire house apart finding the book. And then if that didn't work, I would like collapse into like a heap and be like, fine, and go on the internet and buy it. But yeah.
Why did this happen? Oh my God. That's true. That's far away from the library.
Yes. I mean, borrow it from the library. I'm assuming though that if I had the book, well, no, I guess I would, I don't know. Do I lose library book or do I lose my own book? I don't know. I would say neither. Honestly, it wouldn't happen. If a book's really good, I'm reading it to the end and I'm not stopping.
Oh yeah.
So
someone that I know that she reads like 10 books at a time and she never finishes a book. And because she always has so many books that she wants to read. So like in the middle of like one book, she'll put it down, she'll start another one.
No.
That gives me so much anxiety. Like you need to finish the book.
I mean, for certain books, I could read a couple at a time, right? So, like, if I'm reading like and this is what we call a tangent. If I'm reading like a nonfiction book or an anthology or like poetry or something like that, then I can be like, oh, I'm reading 3 books at a time, and I'll be like reading like them interchangeably depending on my mood, because you don't want to read like love poetry when you feel kind of you don't want to read about like what people do with their bodies after death. I mean in a legal capacity, like whether you're buried and embalmed versus donated to science versus cremated. There's actually a book on that. It's fantastic, and I can't think of the title right now, but it's really good. I'll tell Kelsey to put it in the notes if I can find it after this.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, and they talk about all different kinds of things that people do with their bodies in all different cultures, and crazy things that you can do, like get your ashes pressed into a vinyl record, which I think is awesome. Anyway, you don't want to read that when you're feeling like happy-go-lucky because it's a little bit morbid.
Right.
Which is also why having like such a varied genre of podcasts. See, I'm tying the tangent in.
Yeah, I know.
Having such a varied choice of podcasts is great because you can be like, I feel like listening to Creepy Scary, or I feel like a little bit of zombie horror, or I feel like laughing about something absurd like a beef and dairy industry, because who would think that would be funny? It's just well done. Anyway.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say another one that I really liked. I haven't listened to this one yet because it seems like you're gonna want to go and not stop listening to it. Is the Bright Sessions, which is about a therapist who has patients that all have some kind of supernatural ability, and it's about them discovering their ability and how to use it, and what her motivations for being their therapist are, like why she's kind of driving them in certain directions. And I'm very excited to listen to this one. I have to say, this podcast has been as good for me as I hope it is for other people looking for podcasts to listen to, because a lot of these, like I have like maybe 10 podcasts that I listen to on rotation, and we've probably given you like about 50 podcasts at least. So like I'm like, ooh, I like that. Ooh, I like that. And I'll come on and I'll be like, ooh, I actually last night, and it's not on here. It's one of the true stories that I was listening to, but I thought it might be a little bit mature, a little bit millennial, a little bit. I mean, not that that's not; those are all great things. But it was about it's about true stories of like scammers and con artists, and it was absolutely hilarious. I was cracking up. And that's another thing. A lot of these fall into more than one category. Like there could be a sci-fi one that is comedic, and there could be like a tabletop one that's based heavily in like science fiction or something like that, or supernatural elements. So there's a lot of crossover. We kind of just arbitrarily put them into categories depending on like their overall themes. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. Like I think especially during this pandemic, we've had a lot of time to like consume media and consume like people's artwork and stuff like that, and these are all like so well done. The soundscape on them, the recording quality, the voice actors, I mean, like you have like top tier voice actors in some of these. Like obviously Rami Malek is in, and there, I mean, I'm sure I could go on if I had the list in front of me, but I don't. But there are a lot of like actual professional voice actors, people that do Critical Role or have all voiced cartoon characters, and it's just, it's really cool to see this becoming like the radio drama resurfacing in modern times. So
yeah.
there goes another tangent.
That's okay. It happens.
Catch it if you can.
Yeah. Okay. So next we have true stories. So there are a lot, but there's The Moth, Love and Radio, This Is Love, Mobituaries.
Mm-hmm.
I think I said right.
Yeah.
Story Cops, Noble Blood, The Memory Palace, The Mortified Podcast, Risk, and Modern Love. Ooh, a lot.
So, Risk and The Mortified Podcast are both like kind of in the same vein. They're like people's worst, most embarrassing true stories, which, oh my gosh, I think we all know about secondhand embarrassment. Like when you're watching something or reading something, you literally have to put the book down and stop listening for like, stop watching, stop reading for like 10 seconds to like gather yourself because you feel so embarrassed for the person that's on TV or in the book. So get ready for that feeling. So the Moth we talked about, I think, in our last podcast, and that's where people get up and perform like true stories, like in front of a crowd, which I think we agreed was absolutely terrifying prospects. And people are so brave, and I don't understand. And then you have Love and Radio and This Is Love and Modern Love, which all have like kind of similar concepts where it's about, you know, human beings in love, stories of love. Modern Love, I believe, is actually an Amazon show is based on it now. And Anne Hathaway is in it. Tina Fey is in it. I'm going to only list the women actresses. Oh no, Dev Patel is in it. We love Dev Patel. Uh, and it's really good. It's I think I watched the entire season in like one night. Like I was like watching it when I was eating dinner, and then I like stayed up until like 11 o'clock to finish it out because it's an anthology series. Each episode is a different couple or a different romantic like situation, or just a different, well, all of them have romantic love in them, but not all of them, all of them have romantic love in them, but some of them also have like familial love or platonic love, like where you know, friendship and familial love. I said that already.
Yeah.
And, anyway, super good. Definitely recommend both the podcast. The podcast is longer. Obviously, it has more than, I think the TV show has 6 episodes. It has obviously more than that, and it's actually essays about love or romantic or platonic love situations that have been sent into the New York Times. It's a
Oh,
column in the New York Times. Yeah. So these are read, and I'm pretty sure they're read by celebrity voices, which is I think we're kind of where the TV show got its idea from. This and then This Is Love is more like stories about love in a greater context, like from human beings, but also like animals, also like again, I'm going to say familial bonds, platonic bonds. There's like, I'm saying familial way too much. Anyway,
okay.
Kelsey, save me.
It's that kind of day.
There's also, we're just going to jump right off of this tangent.
Go for
There's
it.
also Noble Blood, which is stories about royalty, obviously, and
Oh,
about the crazy things that they do, which I'm so into. Oh my gosh, I love hearing. I have a friend who is what's it called? Not that you're when you're obsessed with the royal family. It's called something. There's like a specific thing.
I don't know.
It's like when you're like a Francophile and you love France and French things, but it's not an Anglophile, but it's something specific with the royal family. Anyway, she's obsessed. She watched the royal wedding like when it was happening. Like she was up at 5 o'clock in the morning to
Oh my
watch it. Like she and then but she like any other time like that there's not like a big event going on, she's like real subtle about it. Like she just knows facts. So it's like she doesn't want you to know that she's obsessed, but she is.
I mean, it's
uh,
actually happy though, you know?
yeah, I mean, and it's also good. Like up your trivia knowledge. There's bound to be some, you know, trivia questions about royal families in general. It's just not the English royal family, obviously. It's royalty around the world.
Yeah. Well, that's like I like to follow a little bit of like Meghan Markle, a little bit. I mean, I don't really know what's going on now, but like
Yeah.
last I knew was like that they were coming here. Like I'm
Yeah, well,
her and like all that stuff. So
I think they moved to Canada, right? That's where they moved. They moved to Canada, or did they
yes,
move to
but
the U.S.?
I think they also moved to the U.S. I think they have homes in both places.
Well, I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt.
Yeah. I mean, I think they moved to Canada, but they I guess have like I don't know if you call it a vacation house. I guess, where she used to live in California.
I mean, I think, true, yeah.
I could be
I
wrong.
think that I really respect their decision to do that. I really think that there was like one interview where he said something about how he felt so similar about like how this was how his mother was treated and he wasn't going to let it happen to his wife and child. And I was like, wow, like
Go
because
ahead.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like, I felt very, like, that I really respected, you know, like, that he came out and said it that way, too, because I feel like a lot of people, when they're trapped, like, not trapped, obviously, he's a very privileged person, and being royalty has a whole bunch of responsibilities, sure, but they're responsibilities that they've basically, you know, taken. It's not some, you know, if they want to be like no more royal family, no one would really fight them, you know. They could dissolve the entire institution, but they don't for a very specific reason, and that's probably power, because it always is. And I really like to be someone who feels like trapped in a situation and be like, listen, this isn't good for me. I'm gonna go now, and you know, it's for my marriage and for my family. And I was like, that's a very powerful statement to make.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It
this is besides the point.
yeah.
I wonder if they talk about this on the. I think this is more historical, royal exploits than you know the current situation.
But maybe they'll add it in at some point.
Yeah, everything becomes history eventually.
Exactly. All right, moving on. So we have calm and relaxing. So these all say, well, except the one has the word sleep in it. Well, okay.
Yeah.
So sleep with me. Nothing much happens. Sleep and relax. ASMR. Sleep whispers. Stories from the borders of sleep and snooze cast. I like these.
All of them basically are like about helping you fall asleep. Some of them are bedtime stories. Nothing much happens is my absolute favorite one of these. Sorry, everyone else. But it's original stories, and then they're performed by the woman who writes them. I'm pretty sure she writes all of them herself. I'm pretty sure. And it's just so I really was very skeptical about this because I have been known to have like bouts of insomnia, but I usually just, you know, stay up until I'm so exhausted I fall asleep, which is not great. But I started listening to these, and the way she speaks, the cadence of her voice, I really thought it's going to be weird, like having headphones on, having someone like whisper talk in your ear. But it's not. I don't know how to explain it. She's like one of the way that she sounds, her voice, her tone. It's like one of those people that you like. I don't want to say trust implicitly because that sounds very weird. Like I'm gonna be sleep donating, giving her money or something. That's not what's happening. But it's like I don't know. It's just very calming. It's very relaxing. Her stories are all like very mundane thing. Nothing much happens. Very mundane things to like think about or like want to happen. There's like one where she's picking herbs in a garden. There's one when she's cooking. There's one where she's listening to music during a rainstorm, and she's just narrating what she's doing. It's like nothing. It shouldn't be like anything like whoa, that's so crazy, but so good. Yeah, just really relaxing. I highly recommend it. It definitely put me to sleep. So if that's what you're looking for.
It kind of reminds me, like, I know like a lot of people try to listen to like meditations or like to go to sleep. I know there's stuff like that. But like I feel like this would be better almost.
Yeah, it's like kind of cross between a bedtime story and a meditation. The way she does it is she tells the story one time and she tells it at kind of like a relaxed but natural cadence, like someone speaking. And then she says it a second time, tells the same story a second time, but she draws out all of her pauses and all of her stops until it's almost like slow motion, but still in a perfectly like it doesn't sound stretched or anything. But it's slower, it's like gentler, and it really the repetition combined with the cadence of her words is really what knocks you out because you're like, oh, I've heard this before, and your eyes start to get heavy, and then there's a long pause between when she like stops talking, and when she starts talking again, you like kind of dip into unconsciousness, and then you're like, oh wait, there's still more to the story, but you're like, oh, but I've heard this before. So like you feel relaxed enough to go to sleep because you're not missing anything. And it's also like the cadence is kind of lulling you into sleep. Like I said, really, I was so surprised that I actually fell asleep listening to this because I thought it was going to be weird, but it was very relaxing.
All right, folks, for those who need help sleeping, listen to that one first.
First, I mean, try all of them. I'm sure they're all good. I mean, they wouldn't be, successful. And like a lot of these have like upwards of like 86 episodes. Like obviously people are listening to them. There is demand. So
yeah, definitely try that.
I don't know why I picked 86 as a number. That's kind of a
it's okay.
I was just thinking 86. Don't know why.
It's a random number. I don't know. Okay, so now there's also podcast retelling. So for those who like, Tale of Two Cities or Grimm's Fairy Tales, things like that, they will, retell pretty much. And these are just a few of the ones that we found. There are a lot out there.
Mm-hmm. There are also, so there's also LeVar Burton, who was the host of Reading Rainbow, and he, childhood.
I love it.
And he reads chapters from classic books, and it's fantastic. He has such a nice voice. But then there's also other ones like Asking for It and Fictional and Tales, and these are more of like creative retellings. Asking for It is based on Goldilocks, and then Fictional and Tales have episodes that are based on like either fairy tales or classic literature. Fictional is classic literature. Tales is fairy tales. But they're retold like with a little bit of a modern twist. Or Tales is a little bit darker fairy tales as well.
Oh, cool.
So kind of like Lore. I think Lore has some original stories in it too. Like the Tales is more dark retellings of fairy tales. Lore is more original stories based off supernatural and folklore elements. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So similar, but not the same.
But, you can listen to all of them and see what you like. Oh, okay, so here are some tabletop podcasts. So there is the Adventure Zone, the Guildhall podcast, Dice, my darling. That's kind of funny.
I know. when I saw that one, I was like, I love this. I don't even know what it's about, but I love the title itself is just
it's
excellent.
Critical Role, Serendipity City, Friends at the Table. That sounds kind of cool. Turn Cloaks, Glass Cannon, Fate and Fables, and Dice for Brains.
Okay, so I have to say, probably the most two popular ones on this, I think that Friends at the Table is also pretty popular, but probably the two most popular are Critical Role and The Adventure Zone. And everyone and their mother will recommend these podcasts to you. And I haven't listened to Critical Role. It's on my list. Tyler would be very mad that I still haven't listened to any. I haven't listened to any of his recommendations. I haven't played the game he told me to play, and I haven't finished the TV show that he told me to finish. And I just have to say, again, tangent, very sorry. Critical Role, and there's another D&D podcast that was recommended to me by one of my colleagues. I have not listened to them. Yikes.
No.
The problem is because I'm of all of these, and I'm sure that they're all great, and I know Critical Role is because I've seen things for it. Critical Role is the one who has like professional voice actors are playing D&D and other tabletop games. I'm pretty sure they only play D&D actually, but I'm not 100% sure. The reason why is because I only have room in my heart right now for one tabletop / RPG podcast, and it is The Adventure Zone. I'm not finished with I'm not finished with. There's a few different arcs and there's a few mini games that they play in the Adventure Zone. If you're not familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, it's a tabletop role-playing game where you basically build your own character, and then the DM who runs the game, the dungeon master, kind of pulls together a story based on, like, there's preset story arcs that you can do, or you can make your own. And the Adventure Zone is played by the McElroys, and I'm gonna get so excited talking about this. Anyway, they kind of, I feel like if you listen to the first episode, it seems like they kind of did it as a joke. Like they made up like the most ridiculous things. It's like rife with like they just took like random stats, like presets and stuff. And it turned into the most beautiful story like ever. It was so good. It was so good. It was fantastic. Anyway, the storyline, it turned into something. I mean, the whole thing is silly. It is very funny. And because imagine like you're playing with your siblings. If anyone who has siblings knows that, like, you know, you get snippy, but you also have all of these inside jokes, and you know each other so well that you play off each other so well, and that's definitely what's happening here. I'm sorry, I'm talking about this so much. Anyway, it's very funny, but it's also so moving. The story is just really good. It's been made into graphic novels, and I'm pretty sure that they're making it into a TV show, an animated series. So I'm sure that you'll be seeing way more of it around, more than you already do, which is probably a lot because it's kind of the ubiquitous D&D podcast. It's really good. So far they have the 3 main arcs they have are the Balance arc, which is their first one, the Amnesty arc, which is their second one. Like I said, they do a whole bunch of mini games in between where other brothers, the main, so far the two like the first 2 series, the big series, have been DM'd by Griffin, who's the youngest brother, and the third one, Graduation, is DM'd by Travis, who's the middle brother. And I'm rambling now. Anyway, but and then there's a whole bunch of mini arcs where other people get a chance to DM, where they have I think they even have another person come in and DM, and they all play as characters. Anyway, I could literally, I warned Kelsey, I'm so sorry. I could literally talk about this for like an hour. Anyway, we're moving on.
Tell people what, like, you need to tell people how great this is so that they can go listen to it. So
yeah, but I feel like probably anyone who listens to this is gonna be like, oh, she's so crazy, or she she likes this like really like, I don't know. I feel like people are kind of sick of the Adventure Zone because it literally, if you know anything about podcasts, it's like on every top 10 list. Everyone always recommends it. Like, it's the only podcast out there, which is why I tried really, really hard until the very end to talk about this one, because I knew that I would gush and people are like, you know, are going to be like, oh, she likes that. But I have to say, this is the podcast that got me into podcasts because it was funny. Yeah, this is it. This is the first one that I listened to because everyone was recommending it, and I was like, it's probably not that good, and I'll give it a listen. And I was obsessed. I've listened to the Balance arc 3 times, I think, which is ridiculous because it's the same story. But I'm a big fan of rereading / rewatching, and apparently listening. I could rewatch a show a million times and it never gets old to me. I don't know how people are like, I'm never watching that again. I've seen it one time. But are you sure that you saw the whole thing? Because I miss things all the time when I'm reading or when I'm watching things.
Yep.
Like, just little things, like little nuggets of like, oh my gosh, that foreshadowed the whole second season, or, you know, there's so much good like little details in movies, and jokes that like go over your head when you're little, if you watched it when you were younger or read when you were younger. There's a book that I reread all the time, Ella Enchanted, and I know it's a movie, and the movie is not good. I very much apologize. Anne Hathaway is in it, and I love her. It's not good, Anne. It was not good. It was real bad. It wasn't even close to the source material. The book itself, and this is a tangent, is so good, and I read it still at least like maybe once a year because the writing is fantastic. And I also highly recommend the book. It's called Ella Enchanted, and everyone should read it. It's a spin on Cinderella. So good. And yes, I'm an adult, and yes, I know it's kind of a children's book. I don't care. It's so good. Seriously, I'm recommending this to Kelsey too. Kelsey, you should.
I'll read it. I have to finish a book, and then that's next on my list.
Actually, I recommend everything by Gail Carson Levine.
Yes, I remember you saying that.
She's a fantastic writer. She's probably one of my top 5 favorite authors.
I feel like I can't think of favorite author.
Anyway, The Adventure Zone is fantastic. It's so good. And Griffin McElroy, who does the first season, which is he's the DM for that, which is the Balance arc. His storytelling abilities are just crazy good. I was blown away. It really was. And if you're listening to the first episode, you're going to be like, this girl is crazy. She's nuts. She does not know what she's talking about, because it is a mess. The first few episodes are kind of a mess. They're still trying to figure out what they're doing. But when I tell you he pulls a rabbit out of a hat, every single thing that happens from the first time they introduce themselves, the very last sentence of that arc, is all connected. He does a masterful job of like weaving in even the silliest, craziest, stupidest mentions that happen in like the first few episodes into like this wonderful, elaborate fantasy tapestry. I have to say, I know I'm gushing. I don't even care. It's so good. I was like astounded that he basically took the first arc that he does. He took like a set gameplay, like it's a adventure that anyone, you can look it up online and you can play it, and I think he tells you what the arc is called and everything, what that chapter in the story is called. You can go and play it, the same exact thing that they play, like the same set, the same circumstances and everything. It's like a standard gameplay in like the 5th edition rule book for D&D or something like that, and you can just like make a character and go and play with your friends the same exact arc. And he takes that arc and builds it into an incredible story. It's really good. And I know people who don't like it, so I apologize if you're one of them, but I think you're crazy. So I really do. I know that I've just spent like 20 minutes saying how much I love it, but it really is great. It has my highest recommendation. It's the reason why I listen to all the rest of the podcasts that I listen to, because it really got me into the art form as a medium because of how good the storytelling is. And that's the basis of this entire episode, is really good storytelling. And I have to say, and I'm sure all the ones that I mentioned and all the ones that are on here, again, we picked them because they have great storytelling in them. All of them might not be to your taste, but all of them are fantastic stories. So
right.
That's what this is about.
And that is the end of our podcast. Even though this wasn't a podcast, but
it's podcast adjacent.
Yeah, I mean it works. We made it happen somehow.
It was mostly a thing that we did that was a podcast.
Yeah. But I want to thank everyone for watching and listening and all that fun stuff. Yeah, we hope you love podcasts now.
Because we definitely do.
I have to go listen to some now.